The notion that the mainstream media uses global warming to oppress Christians is a complex and multifaceted topic. While there is no concrete evidence to suggest a deliberate attempt to oppress Christians, it can be argued that the media's portrayal of global warming and its implications may have a disproportionate impact on certain Christian communities. To begin with, the mainstream media's coverage of global warming often focuses on the scientific consensus and the urgent need for climate action. This narrative can be seen as conflicting with the views of some Christian denominations that interpret biblical teachings as placing humans above nature. The media's emphasis on the need for drastic measures to reduce carbon emissions and transition to renewable energy sources may be perceived as an attack on the values and lifestyles of some Christian communities, particularly those that rely heavily on fossil fuels or have traditional views on human dominion over nature. Furthermore, some Christians may feel that the media's focus on global warming is an attempt to undermine their faith and values. The concept of stewardship, which is central to many Christian traditions, emphasizes the importance of caring for God's creation. However, the media's portrayal of global warming can be seen as implying that Christians are not doing enough to protect the environment, and that their beliefs and practices are contributing to the problem. This can be perceived as a form of moral judgment, where Christians are deemed to be neglecting their responsibilities as stewards of the earth. Additionally, the media's coverage of global warming often highlights the need for collective action and international cooperation. This can be seen as conflicting with the individualistic values that are prominent in some Christian traditions. The emphasis on personal freedom and autonomy can lead some Christians to view the media's calls for climate action as an infringement on their rights and freedoms. The idea that governments and international organizations should impose regulations and restrictions on individuals and businesses to mitigate the effects of climate change can be seen as an attack on the principles of limited government and individual liberty that are cherished by some Christians. It is also worth noting that some Christian leaders and organizations have been vocal in their criticism of the media's coverage of global warming. They argue that the media's focus on climate change is a form of secular propaganda that seeks to undermine the influence of Christianity in the public sphere. These leaders often point to the media's alleged bias against Christian values and its failure to provide balanced coverage of the climate debate. They argue that the media's emphasis on the need for drastic climate action is a form of alarmism that is designed to manipulate public opinion and advance a liberal agenda. Despite these criticisms, it is essential to recognize that the media's coverage of global warming is not inherently anti-Christian. Many Christian denominations and organizations are actively engaged in environmental activism and are working to promote sustainable practices and reduce carbon emissions. The media's focus on global warming can be seen as an opportunity for Christians to re-examine their values and practices in light of the biblical teachings on stewardship and care for creation. By engaging with the climate debate and promoting environmentally responsible practices, Christians can demonstrate their commitment to caring for God's creation and promoting the common good. In conclusion, while the mainstream media's coverage of global warming may have a disproportionate impact on certain Christian communities, it is not necessarily a deliberate attempt to oppress Christians. The media's portrayal of global warming reflects a complex array of scientific, political, and social factors that are shaping the public discourse on climate change. Christians can engage with the climate debate in a constructive manner, promoting sustainable practices and advocating for policies that balance economic, social, and environmental concerns. By doing so, they can demonstrate their commitment to caring for God's creation and promoting the common good, while also promoting a more nuanced and balanced understanding of the complex issues surrounding global warming.